Welcome to Shadow Shorts. This is where every day at noon Eastern, I bring to you a short conversation with an expert, a thought leader, a doer in the realm of innovation for the built environment. My name is Jeff Echols. I'm a senior advisor and the head of marketing for Shadow Partners. And today I am joined by Nyasha Gutsa. He's the CEO of Billy. And Nyasha and I had the chance to connect last week, in fact, as we're recording this in Atlanta at Shadow Summit. He had a great presentation for the Shadow Ventures investor meeting. And I wanted to follow up and talk about insurance, about compliance, and about how technology can play a big role in this. Someone that has spent a lot of their career focused on not only design but also construction management. Everything Nyasha talks about really rings true to me. So I'm looking forward to this conversation today. Nyasha, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we went live, you were talking about, I mean, there's lots of ins and outs of insurance. And if you're a general contractor, you have subcontractors, and there's a lot of complication here. But one of the things as you were talking that I remembered was in your presentation at the investor meeting on Tuesday, you showed a woman that had this big three-ring binder of, I assume it was insurance policies and probably other contractual documents and things like that. And you put that up on the screen. And the minute I saw that, I went, oh my gosh, that's my former life, right? That's exactly how I would organize our contracts, our contractors' contracts, our subcontractors' contracts. And you started talking about that. To be honest, it sort of sent a shiver down my spine because it was, sort of going back into that Wayback Machine into a former life. But what you're doing at Billy is really attacking that, sort of solving and digitizing that, or providing a digitized solution to that. But why is what you're focused on so important?
Yeah, and thank you for the floor as well. So this concept is known as a risk transfer. And just to double click into that, risk transfer in construction occurs when you subcontract work out. So think of a building. We're building an apartment complex. We're going to go to an owner who's going to grant us the project. And we don't build everything as a general contractor. So we're going to hire the person who does flooring, some guy who's going to do the foundation, some guy who's going to do, I guess, like building the core structure itself with steel and masonry, etc. So there can be, let's call it 50 subcontractors on a project. There's a lot of risk in subcontracting the work because each one of these subcontractors has to abide by the rules that are written in your prime contract, right? So all those exhibits that are there, one of them is insurance, and it will say, I need X amount of insurance, for each person that you hire. And in some cases, it will say, if the contract is X amount of dollars, then the people need X amount of insurance. So for example, if you're in New York, a person who operates a crane, for example, probably has the most amount of insurance than the person who does cleaning at the end. In the old days, it used to be, well, I'm just going to go and collect the piece of paper that proves that somebody has insurance. The proof of insurance is done on a standardized document known as an Accord 25 form. But what most general contractors don't understand is that just getting that document alone is not enough. In fact, the very top of the certificate of insurance says that just having this piece of paper does not guarantee that you actually have a policy. The thing that actually proves that you have the policy are the pros, the declaration page, and the actual policy itself, because they're hidden things within an insurance contract or a policy that can affect you at a time of a loss. For example, in places like New York, there can be height restrictions. So you could hire a subcontractor who has a height restriction of, let's say, 25 feet, meaning they can only work on maybe 1 or 2 story buildings, residential. But let's say they graduate now, they're working for you on commercial projects, and we're building a multi-family home or apartment that's 15 stories, about 75 feet. If anything happens, their insurance company is not liable. So say a person falls, they get injured, that risk is actually going to transfer back to the general contractor. And it could be a couple $100,000, and there goes your margin on that job. And also your premiums are going to go up as well, all because you didn't collect the right documents and you didn't review the documents to make sure that a person has the right insurance as well. We see this behavior also with that. Oh yeah, go for it.
Oh, well, thinking back to that image that you had on the screen, right? Here's this woman with a three-ring binder, and I think even so, she's obviously got policies and procedures. She's got an SOP in place, right? This is how we pull a project together with all of our contractors. This is how we track everything. This is how we keep track of all these policies. And she's probably, my guess is she's probably the one that's reviewing all those items that you're talking about. But in this age of technology, having a human being responsible for reviewing all of those things and making sure, and I'm sure there's the also insured and the indemnification clauses and the everything else that goes into it. It always boggled my mind that we were doing this back when I was by hand, essentially, and maybe I'm relying on a insurance rep or somebody like that to help make sure everything is in compliance. But it's a lot on a project like what you're talking about. It's a 15-story multifamily or something like that. There's a lot. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of technicality there. So it only makes sense to me that the direction that you're going and the using technology to pull all these pieces together, that has to be the future. And I know you hope it is. I mean, you're blazing that pathway, but what does that look like in terms of the technology that's available and needed to track all of these things?
Yeah. So we're trying to bridge the gap between construction and insurance by essentially embedding insurance professionals into construction workflows. Hmm. So traditionally, when you sign a contract today, even with DocuSign, your broker is not included as part of the process, but they should be, because they need to read the contract to tell you if your current insurance policy even covers the scope of work that you're doing. So what we're doing is we're embedding the brokers into the workflow. Anytime a contract is signed, or even if it's in draft, for example, in systems like Procore, we know about it programmatically, including those insurance requirements. So we're able to communicate that to the insurance professional and their customer so that they can have the conversation to provide the general contractor with the right documents. The next step after that is for general contractors. If you have, let's say, owner-controlled insurance program or a contractor-controlled insurance program, OSIP or CSIP, anytime you issue a contract to a subcontractor, your broker has to enroll them onto that master policy. There's no digitization today. So this is spreadsheets, Word documents that go out. And then the broker has to give the subcontractor a certificate of insurance that they hand over to the general contractor. For us, embedding insurance into the workflows means that we're automating this process of getting automatically enrolled onto OSIP and CSIP projects. So no more Excel sheets, no more paperwork. And we eventually see a world where we connect directly to the carrier and you don't need a certificate of insurance anymore. Think of it like Twitter or X, as they call it, like you just have a verification symbol that would be like, hey, they have insurance because we're connected directly to the carrier. For an insurance carrier, that means that they are now sticky as a product, right? They don't have to worry about their customer ever leaving them because they embedded within a common workflow that they have on every project. You have to sign a contract. And whenever you sign a contract, the distribution network is right there, the broker, right? So Billy's making it easy for the broker to be like, I don't need to go call another carrier. And the carrier that I place my customer with is already embedded within their workflow as well. So that's the future that we see of automating some of these really boring processes that are within construction and insurance, and just modernizing them for the future as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exciting because a lot of those really boring processes are what potentially hold the most trouble for us, in terms of liability and all the pitfalls of design, development, and construction. So these conversations are fascinating to me because, hey, there's a better way, right? We've been doing it with the three ring binder and the spreadsheets for a lot of years. There might be a better way to do it, and I love the verification check mark idea as well. Listen, I know that you have to run, and we promise these to be shadow shorts. So I appreciate you coming and talking about this technology and the transfer of risk. That's a really important concept. Maybe we'll have to have you back in the future so we can expand this conversation into more about risk and the different types of pitfalls that are out there.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Nyasha Gutsa, the CEO of Billy. Again, we get to get together a little bit last week at Shadow Summit and the Shadow Ventures investor meeting. And I wanted to bring a little bit about how Billy is automating the compliance of specifically the insurance and construction markets here. So thank you for watching or listening, depending on how you're consuming this, which format you're consuming this in. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another Shadow Shorts.